Part 112. The Koi Fairy Wife is Sweet as Honey, Love from the Koi Goddess. Author, Su Xiaozhaji. Chapter 1113. When Long Hao saw a person rushing towards him, approaching a safe distance but not stopping, his first reaction was to make a gesture. Of course, the gesture only moved slightly before he reacted immediately, stopped, and then took 2 steps to the side to avoid Mo who was running towards him. If someone from the Divine Supervision Bureau were here and saw his reaction just now, they would find that the dragon team just wanted to draw the sword out of conditioned reflex. Fortunately, Long Hao remembered where this place was in time and who were the people around him. Mo jumped away and stood there a little embarrassed. Her eyes were still red, with tears in her eyes, and she looked at Long Hao aggrievedly. Looking at this posture, people who didn't know the truth thought that Long Hao was sorry for her. "Is something wrong?" Long Hao asked. Mo said a little aggrievedly, "Can you hug me?" Long Hao, reason. Mo, I was scared to death just now. I only know you here. Can you comfort me? The photographer stared at the two of them as if they were on fire. As long as you dare to hug them, I dare to take pictures. Not only do I dare to take pictures, I can also take pictures of lingering emotions and pathos. However, the photographer's idea was destined to be unrealized. Because the person standing opposite Mo was a ruthless man. Long Hao looked at Mo and asked seriously and doubtfully, "If I hug you, won't you be afraid?" Mo nodded. "Hugging is a very warm act. It should make me feel better, right?" Long Hao nodded. Mo thought the other party agreed, and was about to smile and say, "You're so kind." Then Long Hao turned his head and looked at the 2 girls eating melon not far away. Mo was frightened and wanted to use your arms to comfort him. 2 girls. Mo. It's yours. Dead straight man. I don't understand the style. Mo's expression was so stiff for a moment that he didn't know what to do. The 2 girls looked at me and I looked at you. After all, Long Hao had said what he said. They couldn't let Mo stay in such embarrassment, so they took the initiative to come over and give Mo a hug. The girl in the blue skirt also said, "The hug from the little sister is more fragrant and softer." After all, this matter is over. Mo got a cold face from Long Hao. Even though the man in red urged him hard, he felt a little depressed for a while and ran to the side to sit down. Long Hao glanced at her and made sure that the other party would not cause trouble in this situation, so he didn't care. His eyes returned to the other side of the ropeway. There are 4 people left here. Jinli, Lu Zhenjia, Su Hexiang, Lu Qingyuan. The 4 of them were all shocked by Mo's reaction just now. Those who knew it saw her walking on the ropeway with safety measures on her body, and those who didn't know thought she was walking through a mountain of fire. That's a miserable cry. But let's not talk about it. Her coming here immediately made the remaining 2 people feel a little confused. Why do you say they are the remaining 2 people? Because there are 2 others who are not human. Of course they won't be afraid. The host was also shocked, but after all he was well informed and quickly reacted and said with a smile, "It seems that our Mo's reaction to the ropeway was a bit big. Are you guys nervous now?" Su Hexiang was a little honest, "A little bit." Lu Qingyuan couldn't lose face in front of his sweetheart, so he shook his head, "It's okay." Jinli is different. She said with a smile, "Not only am I not nervous, I also want to give it a try right away." Update completed. Good night everyone. The Koi Fairy Wife is Sweet as Honey, Love from the Koi Goddess. Author, Su Xiaozhaji. Chapter 1114. The host was shocked. "Jinli, do you really want to give it a try?" Jinli nodded, "Yes, it looks fun." The host added, "You saw Mo's appearance just now, weren't you scared?" Jinli asked strangely, "Why should I be afraid?" Host, Just, the way she looks. Jinli looked at him in confusion. What does she look like, and what does she have to do with me? The host said to himself that this mentality is really good. Seeing that Jinli was in high spirits, he stopped talking nonsense and said, then let's take a look at Jinli's performance. As usual, staff came to put safety measures on Jinli. In fact, Jinli didn't need these things, but she also knew very well that this was a step that she had to go through. If she insisted on not bringing them, the show might not be able to continue at all. After putting on the safety rope and gloves, Jinli stretched out his hand to scratch in the void with some curiosity, and said, these gloves are not very comfortable. Lu Zhenjie looked at her and said, then let's change it. Jinli shook his head, forget it. Su Hexiang said from the side, Jinli, you have to be careful. Jinli turned back and winked at her, don't you know about me yet? Don't worry. She said. Without wasting any time, she walked directly to the ropeway. He looked down and stepped on it easily. The wooden board underfoot swayed slightly. Jinli finally understood how Momo felt. This feeling of a person's center of gravity being unstable at high altitude, drifting left and right without any support, it's actually a bit fun. She seemed not to be afraid at all. Her whole body steadily swayed left and right along with the ropeway. She even turned her head and smiled at everyone, it's so fun. Host. The guests this episode are really awesome. Look at these different styles, they look great together. It's rare to see such a bold and interesting female guest. After Jinli tried it, he thought that Momo had wasted a lot of time earlier and didn't want to waste anyone else's time anymore, so he turned around and said, I'm leaving first. As he spoke, he walked forward briskly. The mountain wind blew the ropeway, and the slender figure in the middle was like a light lark. The whole person was light and airy, and the figure swayed on the ropeway, as if it had no weight. The staff filming from a distance were a little confused. No, it's just that Wen Hao is a practitioner. How did Jinli do it? The bottom plate is so stable and yet so relaxed. Outsiders looked at the camera and felt it was extremely thrilling, but Jinli couldn't tell that she was nervous at all. She was even halfway there, and she didn't even stretch out her hand to help her surroundings. Jinli's steps suddenly stopped. At this moment, she had walked more than half the distance. Everyone was paying attention to her, and they were a little confused looking at her actions now. The host asked strangely, what does Jinli want to do? Lu Zhenjie looked at Jinli's figure and said smoothly, I want to see the scenery between the cliffs. Host. He looked at Lu Zhenjie strangely, wondering if this was the first time for a guest here to see this. He questioned in his mind, but he did not dare to refute the young richest man in the flower country. He only laughed twice and said, Jinli is really brave. Lu Zhenjie kept looking at the figure on the cliff. Hearing this, he said calmly, you haven't really seen how courageous she is. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Koi Fairy Wife is sweet as honey, love from the Koi Goddess. Author, Su Xiao Zheji. Chapter 1115. The host was aroused to be curious, but Lu Zhenjie obviously didn't want to talk anymore. Not far away, Jinli on the ropeway finally made some moves. This action almost made the host and staff who were watching almost scream. The slender white figure moved his feet and actually walked to the left edge of the ropeway. This cableway is unstable. Generally, tourists who take this cableway try to walk in the middle to maintain balance. Everyone knows that the more it leans to one side, the more the center of gravity will shift and the more unstable the ropeway will be. Although it won't turn over, not everyone has the psychological quality to bear that dangerous feeling. Jinli stood aside at this moment, holding the chain on the left side with both hands. In everyone's eyes, under Jinli's action, the ropeway suddenly tilted to the left, at an angle of at least 30 degrees. One staff member even exclaimed softly, and Su Hexiang immediately held her palm tightly. She knew that Jinli was not an ordinary person, and she had seen Jinli's miraculous powers. She knew that she probably didn't care about such trivial matters, but she still felt worried all of a sudden, and she even muttered in a low voice, "That's so naughty." Except for Lu Zhenjie, everyone knew that Lu Qingyuan, who was standing behind her, heard this muttering. Lu Qingyuan didn't know Jinli's identity and was more worried than Su Hexiang. But he could also tell from Jinli's actions that this was not an accident, but Jinli did it deliberately, and she was not afraid. Lu Qingyuan looked at Lu Zhenjie helplessly. "Uncle." Lu Zhenjie, huh? Lu Qingyuan, Jinli is too bold. You should try to persuade her later. Lu Zhenjie glanced at Lu Qingyuan and said, "You should call me aunt." Lu Qingyuan. Is this the point? Isn't the point about the people still lying on the side of the ropeway watching the scenery? He sighed, "Aunt Jinli is too courageous, and uncle, you are really big-hearted." Lu Zhenjie raised his lips with satisfaction. "She likes to play, just let her play." Lu Qingyuan. The staff who heard this paragraph were also stunned. "Mr. Lu, is he manipulating Jinli too much? She actually followed her even in this kind of thing. In fact, how do these people know that for Lu Zhenjie, this little thing is nothing more than manipulating Jinli?" When he was in the Chaos God realm, Lu Zhenjie really controlled Jinli. Relying on his strength and luck, having a protective lover, and an even more protective heavenly father, what daring things has the little fairy fish not done? Among those immortals and gods, who is not angry and helpless on the face, but almost crying with jealousy on the inside? Jinli lay on the side and looked down. What you can see is the rocky mountain walls that have been eroded by time and wind and frost into an earthy yellow color. They are steep and steep. The mountains are surrounded by large expanses of lush green plants. Further down, layers of deep and shallow greens occupy the entire field of vision. The rest, it's at the bottom of the bottomless cliff. What there is, I can no longer see clearly. There doesn't seem to be much to see." Her eyes turned around and she stepped back. In the eyes of everyone, the ropeway shook again, and finally returned to stability. The emergency response team staff, who had been watching nervously since Jinli's big move and were ready to rescue at any time, finally breathed a sigh of relief. "See you later. The Koi fairy wife is sweet as honey, love from the Koi goddess." Author, Su Xiaozhaji. Chapter 1116. Jinli didn't make any more frightening moves, and Anan lived her way to the end. Mo watched in confusion as she walked here step by step. She is a little doubtful about life. Looking at the relaxed look on Jinli's face and looking at the ropeway in front of her, she felt something was wrong. Why? When a normal person walks on this ropeway, shouldn't he be nervous and scared? She was even ready to give the frightened Jinli a hug. However, they were basically calm throughout the whole process, and even scared others in the middle. What the hell? So far, there are 3 people walking this natural hazard, 2 of them are just like walking on flat ground, and only one of them is so scared that he cries. In such a comparison, the abnormal one becomes oneself. Mo felt bitter. She even felt a little aggrieved. Who did the program team invite to participate? If you compare this, wouldn't it make you look good? Jinli took off the protective measures on her body, walked aside, nodded to Mo, sat down, and said hello to Long Hao. The photographer took a photo of this scene. On the other side, 2 staff members responsible for filming and adding footage also started emergency editing. "I have no doubt that Jinli's video became a hot search as soon as it was posted," said staff member A. Staff B agreed, "I think so too." Their eyes lit up. "I really admire the director. How did he hire these people? Looking at this situation, our show is probably going to be on the hot search list." A chuckled, don't worry about the ratings. B gave me a look, don't worry about the bonus. Good. That makes sense. If the show has high ratings, their staff will definitely receive bonuses and red envelopes. After Jinli left, among the remaining 3 people, Lu Zhenjie took a step forward and expressed his willingness to go up without the host asking. The host joked, Mr. Lu is so proactive, does he want to go to accompany Jinli earlier? The 2 of them are husband and wife, so it's okay to tease them. The host did not expect that Lu Zhenjie actually agreed, and nodded seriously, yes, she is so bored being alone, I will go and accompany her as soon as possible. Host. He looked across the ropeway in a daze. One person? Are the other 2 guests across from you, as well as the n number of staff members, not human in the eyes of you, Mr. Lu? The host was speechless as he watched Lu Zhenjie put on protective measures and stepped on the ropeway with an indifferent expression. Gee, people who have wives are amazing. Probably because of Lu Zhenjie's aura, no one thought that he would not be able to walk this ropeway well. In fact, he is really amazing. Without Jinli's dexterity and thrills, he stepped on the ropeway, his whole body as steady as a mountain, and everyone even had a slight illusion, after Mr. Lu stepped on it, the ropeway didn't seem to shake much. Lu Zhenjie completed the entire journey without any surprises. Jinli stood at the end of the ropeway and gave him a hug with a smile. Mo stood aside with a complicated expression. I think I may not be walking on the same cableway as you are, she said. Jinli tilted his head, that's wrong, we are obviously taking the same route. Mo covered her face, why aren't you afraid? The koi fairy wife is sweet as honey, love from the koi goddess. Author, Su Xiao Zheji. Chapter 1117. Jinli tilted his head to look at her and asked with a smile, why are you afraid? Mo was a little confused by this confident question. Shouldn't normal people be afraid? Jinli smiled slightly, you mean, Lu Zhenjie and I are not normal people? Mo's expression changed, that's not what I meant. Jinli said with a smile, oh, that was my misunderstanding. She took Lu Zhenjie's hand and walked towards the seat. When passing by Mo, she whispered in her ear, I thought, Mo, you thought that we, like you, are not normal people. Mo was shocked. She looked at Jinli with wide eyes, what do you mean? Jinli seemed not to hear this and pulled Lu Zhenjie to sit on the seat next to Long Hao. Mo felt a little cold all over. Jinli's words just now were not loud, and they were said close to her. The staff did not hear it, and the microphone on the scene did not pick it up. But even so, she was still cold and scared. What does she mean? She rubbed the pendant on her wrist and asked with her mind. This is the method taught to her by the man in red, to be used when someone is inconvenient to speak. The man in red sounded a little surprised, this woman, I don't see anything wrong with her. Her tone may be just to scare you casually, he said. Mo was not so optimistic, no, I always feel like she knows something. And she turned around. Jinli sat near Long Hao. Although, this can be said that everyone participates in the same program and can sit close to each other and chat. But Mo always felt uncomfortable. Do you think she knew we were going to attack Long Hao, so she deliberately sat next to him to warn me? Mo said quickly. The man in red shook his head, with a somewhat disdainful tone, you worry too much. Don't say I can't be discovered easily. She warned me? What can she do? It's not that he is arrogant. After he woke up from this pendant, he met countless people before meeting Mo. He also met a few famous Suanman people, but no one noticed him at all. Moreover, in this world now, Suanman has declined, and there are very few who can be his opponents. What can these 2 young people do? The man in red didn't take it seriously. But Mo was so panicked that she didn't even dare to get close to Jinli and Long Hao. Mo had a contract with him, and her state naturally affected the man in red. After a few words of persuasion, there was still no result. The man in red turned cold and said, "For such a small thing to scare you into being so stupid, you are really a piece of rotten wood." The man in red once again regretted choosing such a contract owner, but he had already signed the contract and could not return it. He endured his anger and said, "I will go up to see this Jinli tonight, and it will make people completely relieved." Mo said quickly, "Don't be impulsive." The man in red chuckled, "Don't worry, no matter how big a deal it is, even if she is really a powerful person, I still have a trump card. It's not a problem to escape unscathed." Mo couldn't stop him at all, and she really believed in his ability, so she really didn't care after hearing this. Asterisk. As everyone knows, the other party between the two, the person who should hear it, hears it clearly. Jinli was a little amazed at the confidence of the man in red. "With the two of us, it's not a problem to escape unscathed." She tugged on Lu Zhenjia's sleeve. "Not many ancient gods in the entire Chaos God realm dare to say this, right? Good night. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Koi Fairy Wife is sweet as honey, love from the Koi Goddess. Author, Su Xiao Zheji. Chapter 1118. Long Hao sat opposite them, a little helpless. "I told you, I can solve it myself, there is no need for you to get involved." Jinli innocently said, "Then I didn't do it on purpose. I just looked at Mo and couldn't help teasing her." Who knew she was so unintimidated? Mo couldn't help but be frightened, so the man in red would have such a big reaction and say such words. Long Hao couldn't hear what the man in red said and asked, "So, what did the other person say?" Jinli smiled and winked at him. "The weapon spirit said he would come to us at night." Long Hao. Why can't I figure it out? Lu Zhenjia was a little unhappy. He brought a glass of water, opened it, and handed it to Jinli. Jinli was a little confused. "I'm not thirsty." Lu Zhenjia was calm and composed. "I saw you looking at Mr. Long and thought you wanted to drink the water in his hand." Jinli. I didn't look at the water in his hand. She reacted suddenly and looked at Lu Zhenjia. "Are you jealous again?" Lu Zhenjia remained silent. Jinli was helpless and funny. "If you're jealous, you should look at the person you're with. Although Long Hao is good looking, I can't possibly like him, okay?" Long Hao looked back at her and responded coldly, "That's true. There's no way I like Jinli either." Jinli glared at him angrily, snorted, and stopped talking. She turned her head and looked at the other side of the cliff. "Now it's Susu and Lu Shen's turn to walk on the ropeway," she said. Lu Zhenjia looked at her and moved his lips slightly. "Do you need help?" If Jinli wanted to help them, he would use some magic to make the two of them pass easily. Jinli shook his head. "Forget it, it's just an entertainment show. There's no danger, so there's no need to be so serious." Lu Zhenjia nodded and said nothing. Jinli stood on the ropeway and looked at it from a distance. She had excellent senses and could naturally see more clearly than ordinary people. "The person over there who is preparing to get on the ropeway is Susu." She opened her hands like trumpets and shouted loudly, "Come on Susu." 500 meters away, separated by the mountain wind, when it reached Su Hexiang's ears, it became fragmented. But she also understood what Jinli was talking about and waved at Jinli. "Then, walk onto the ropeway. It's shaking, unstable, and looking down, it's a bit scary. However, relying on years of experience in acting, Su Hexiang's sense of balance is still better than the average person." Although she was a little nervous, she held onto the chains on both sides and walked on without any danger. "Still very stable." The host, while watching Su Hexiang's movements, praised the camera, as expected of Su Su, steady. Lu Qingyuan also walked very calmly, no matter whether he was nervous or not, in front of the camera and in front of Su Hexiang. There was absolutely no way that he would reveal the slightest bit of plagiarism. The first challenge was successfully completed here. Except for Mo, the other guests all performed very well. And after the challenge is over, it's time to enjoy the trip. For lunch, the crew invited a famous local chef from Yunlin Mountain to specially cook a special dish with the flavor of the Yunlin area for everyone. Dishes: fragrant, spicy, heavy in oil and salt. Jinli doesn't pick the taste, as long as it tastes good, others can't bear the heavy taste. Su Hexiang even ordered a glass of water to wash it down. During the dinner, Mo kept secretly watching Jinli and Lu Zhenjie, thinking that they didn't notice him. Today, I have only written one chapter so far. The Koi fairy wife is sweet as honey, love from the Koi goddess. Author, Su Xiao Zheji. Chapter 1119. Jinli was so tired for her. But she didn't want to go to the scary house anymore, so she could enjoy the delicious food in peace. Mo picked up 2 dishes absent-mindedly with chopsticks. Seeing Jinli's appetite, he couldn't help but start the conversation. Jinli, you have a really good appetite. Jinli, well, as long as it's delicious food, I have a good appetite. Mo was a little envious when he heard this. She loves spicy food, so today's dish is actually very suitable for her. If you choose to be an artist, you have to manage your mouth better than ordinary people. Don't say you can't eat too much, because eating too much can easily lead to obesity. Others, such as salty, spicy, sweet, and greasy, must be avoided, because eating these things is not good for the skin. Ordinary people look at the glamorous appearance of celebrities. Who would have thought that many people have not had a satisfying meal for a long time? Of course, Mo felt that there was nothing to say. She touched her face and looked down at the big-name clothes she was wearing. If she had not taken this path, she would probably be like other classmates now. After graduation, she would find a job with a monthly salary of tens of thousands or more, clock in and go to work honestly every day, get married, and have children when she is old. There would be no expectation or fun in life. Word. Unlike her now, countless people like her, she receives countless sincere confessions and compliments every day, and she can buy a skirt worth a year's salary of an ordinary person without blinking an eye. Mo sighed and felt proud at the same time, but couldn't help but look at Jinli eating happily. There was one more thing she envied about the other person: he didn't have taboos. Not only was he not fat, but his skin was impeccable and perfect. Why are there such people? Her existence seems to be mocking others. All your efforts are just a joke. The results of their hard work on self-restraint are not as good as others' natural beauty. True God's preference. Mo's eyes turned fierce for a moment. But she quickly lowered her head and quickly suppressed the unwanted thoughts that were revealed in a moment. She lowered her head and picked up a chopstick and swallowed it, covering up her momentary absence. But the emotion of this moment was still captured. Lu Zhenjie's eyes immediately turned cold. He clearly felt the sudden malice towards Jinli that erupted from Mo just now. After feeling it, there is uncontrollable anger. How dare this woman take advantage of Jinli? His hand was suddenly pulled by Jinli. Lu Zhenjie turned around and saw the person sitting next to him winking playfully at him. "Why are you angry?" she said softly to him with her spiritual thoughts. Lu Zhenjie remained silent. Jinli used strength to hold Lu Zhenjie's hand and continued to communicate with him using her spiritual thoughts. "She is just jealous of me. I have long been used to it." She grabbed Lu Zhenjie's hand with her left hand, and didn't waste her right hand picking up food for herself. The most amazing thing was that while enjoying the food without stopping, she didn't forget to talk to Lu Zhenjie with her spiritual thoughts. "It's normal for a beautiful and outstanding little fairy like me to be jealous. It's strange that no one is jealous. Lu Zhenjia's expression softened and he glanced at her. Are you still very proud? Jin Liqiao puffed up her chest and said confidently, you are mediocre if you are not envied by others. Lu Zhenjia. Okay, he admitted, his anger was extinguished by Jin Li. But, he glanced in Momo's direction coldly. The koi fairy wife is sweet as honey, love from the koi goddess. Author, Su Xiao Zheji. Chapter 1120. Offending Pixiu is not a good thing for humans. Mo suddenly felt a burn on his wrist. She said yeah in surprise, and everyone at the dinner table looked at her. What's wrong? Su Hexiang asked. Mo was the youngest in the entire guest group, and Su Hexiang had a good impression of her, so he naturally took extra care of her. Mo smiled, no, it's okay. I just accidentally hit the corner of the table and it hurt a little. Be careful, Su Hexiang said. Mo nodded. She touched her wrist. The pendant was suddenly hot, and she couldn't help but screamed. Senior? Senior, she tried calling the man in red, but got no response. Mo finished lunch anxiously and rejected Su Hexiang's suggestion to go out for a walk together, saying that he was a little sleepy and wanted to take a rest. When she walked on the ropeway today, she looked really frightened and exhausted, so everyone followed her wishes. Mo returned to the hotel alone, and several other people were said to have gone out to take pictures with their cameras. Go back to the room and close the door. Mo rubbed the pendant on her wrist and shouted again, Senior. A red light flashed on the pendant, and the man in red appeared. Mo breathed a sigh of relief. She thought the other party was gone. Senior, I just called you, why didn't you respond? The man in red looked a little bad. I didn't know why, but I suddenly felt a little panicked. The man in red stretched out his hand and covered his heart. It's quiet there. There was no movement. How can a dead person or a spiritual body have a heartbeat? Where can I find my heart? But if you don't have a heart, why do you feel panicked? The man in red frowned, doubtful. But his long-term pride prevented him from taking this feeling to heart. Okay, there's no big problem. You just need to perform well in this show and attract more fans. By the way, that Wenhao, you need to be more careful, the man in red said. When it came to Wenhao, Mo felt a little subtle. Senior, I think that Wenhao, he can't possibly be tempted by me. The man in red sneered coldly, who wants him to be tempted? Man, a man who is tempted, isn't it easy to get a kidney? Mo. Her tone was a bit difficult. I think it might be, not that easy for him to have a kidney transplant. The man in red was a little angry. You can't do this little thing. Mo felt aggrieved. It's not that I'm useless, but that Wenhao is just a piece of wood no matter how you look at it. As you can see, it's okay for him to look down on me. I'm a peerless beauty like Jin Li, and I'm a woman. You can see the loss of concentration even if you don't care, but Wenhao didn't even give me a look. Man in red. He thought for a moment about Wenhao's frozen expression, and felt that this was indeed the case. I'm afraid this man is really just a piece of wood, he said, and looked at Mo again. He is a piece of wood, so why don't you try another way? Mo. She looked at the man in red with embarrassment and confusion. What other way? The man in red thought for a moment. Let me go and meet the Jin Li you mentioned in the evening. He stretched out his bright red tongue and licked his lips. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The koi fairy wife is sweet as honey, love from the koi goddess. Author, Su Xiao Zheji. Chapter 1121. Mo was startled. She looked at the man in front of her in fear. Snatch it, grab it, and give it to me. What do you mean? The man in red smiled coldly. What else could it mean? It doesn't mean literally. I'll snatch her beauty away and give it to you. Mo swallowed. Give it to me and I will become a beauty like Jinli. The man in red looked at her and smiled slowly. Of course. Mo asked again, what about Jinli? The man in red looked strangely. Her beauty is gone, so naturally she becomes an ugly monster. Mo stopped talking. The man in red came closer to her. He always carries the cool aura of the nine abyss, which is not what a living person would feel at all. How is it? Mo, the man spoke in her ear with a cold tone like a poisonous snake, dangerous and seductive. Think about Jinli's beauty. If you have this, do you still have to worry? Fans. Still afraid that someone won't like you? Never again. As long as you smile at someone, his or her heart will love you. Mo's expression changed, as if he was struggling with something. Seeing this, the man in red took a step back and waited for her to make a choice. If Mo looked up at this moment, he would be able to see a cold and sarcastic look on the other side. But she didn't, so naturally she couldn't see the scene. I thought about it. Mo finally raised his head, looked at the man, and slowly shook his head. I still don't want it. The man in red was stunned. What did you say? Mo hesitated for a moment and said sincerely, I am not destined to be a peerless beauty. Why do I have to steal such beauty? The man in red said coldly, do you know how many benefits it can bring to you? Mo nodded. I've searched for Jinli in the past few days, so of course I know. Then you still don't want to? The man in red reacted and stared at Mo. Are you worried? Are you afraid that things will be exposed? No, don't worry, it won't happen. I robbed her of her beauty and after giving it to you, you won't look like her. She is exactly the same. Moreover, I can guarantee that no other person in this world will know about this except you and me. Mo shook his head. I'm not worried about this. She breathed out slowly, as if she had finally cut off the trace of hesitation, and made up her mind. I am originally an ordinary person in this world. Because I met you, Senior, I have lived a more exciting life than millions of people life. She touched her face and smiled. I often look at myself in the mirror and feel that I am beautiful now and my life is good. She looked at the man in red. I am already very satisfied with my current life. I don't want to force anything more, and she thought of Jinli, frowned slightly, and said, a woman like Jinli has been beautiful and proud all her life. If her beauty is taken away, I'm afraid, she won't be able to survive. The man in red looked at her indifferently. How good my life is, do you need to pity me? Mo twisted her fingers together before saying, I don't pity her, I just don't want to do so many bad things. The man in red suddenly sneered, bad thing. He seemed to have heard some big joke and couldn't stop laughing. The koi fairy wife is sweet as honey, love from the koi goddess. Author, Su Xiao Zhaji. Chapter 1122. Mo looked at the man in front of him with some fear. To be fair, the man's appearance is extremely outstanding. In addition to appearance, temperament is also particularly attractive. Mo was just an ordinary science and engineering university dog before, and he couldn't think of a romantic idiom to describe him, but when he saw this man in red for the first time, at that time, perhaps the word ghost in red was more appropriate, she was really surprised. His appearance is handsome and gorgeous, but his temperament is very upright and upright. Every move he makes is very much like the young master from an aristocratic family described in the novel, and he is a bit more charming than those upright and jade-like companies. He was quiet most of the time, but it was not the quietness of the years, but gloomy, as if he was trapped in a nightmare that he could never get out of, and his aura was dark and scary. So Mo is afraid of him. This was the first time she had seen him lose his temper like this. What you said really makes me sick, the man in red said to her. Mo looked at him with wide eyes. What do you mean? The man in red put on a smile and looked at her playfully. Have you not done many bad things? Mo subconsciously wanted to retort, I didn't. Really not. The man in red said in a low voice, when you entered the entertainment industry, you released new songs one after another, attracting fans one after another. What did I say to you at that time? What did you do to really be able to forget about it? Is it completely clean? Mo's face suddenly turned pale. She couldn't forget it? Where does her talent come from? Where does her beauty come from? Her fans paid so much because they liked her. Those fans who were attracted by her singing and felt happy, relaxed, sad and peaceful, also lost these emotions little by little. It cannot be seen for a while. No one will even notice it for a long time. After all, a person will always encounter all kinds of difficult and strange things in his life, and no one will doubt that his personality will change drastically because of this. Therefore, even if a young person has become less and less happy in a few years, becomes more and more negative and depressed, and even directly develops symptoms of depression, if he goes to the hospital for examination, the doctor will probably only think that this trend is because he is under too much pressure in work and life, or there are obstacles in love, and other reasons. No one will doubt that the root cause of all this is actually that this young man's happiness was taken away by a song he really liked. Mo's hands were shaking. I didn't mean it, she defended herself. The man in red sneered disdainfully, do you know what kind of people I despise the most? Mo looked up at him. There was a trace of anger in the dark eyes of the man in red. What I hate the most is people like you who know that they are not clean inside, but still pretend to be pure and kind on the outside. Mo's heart was shocked. The man in red sneered coldly, if you have the courage to dig out all the unbearable desires in your heart and become a bad woman through and through, I will think more highly of you. Mo bit her lip, that's not the case. She never felt bad about herself. The man in red looked at her with cold eyes and lost interest. I don't want to talk nonsense. What I said just now, I ask again, do you want Jin Lee's beauty? I wish you all a happy Mid-Autumn festival in advance and be happy. Good night.